Everybody, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back here to another live stream, my friends. Hope everyone is having a wonderful Wednesday night. It is good to see you guys here. So, we got some more updates for y'all. We've been dealing with some pretty crazy heat lately. I mean, it's been absolutely nuts. There's been reports of hundreds, or not hundreds, but over 100 degrees up there in the mid-Atlantic lately. It's just been terrible. Terribly hot. But what's up, everybody? Hope everyone's doing well. Once again, it's good to see you guys. Let's see who we have here today. We have, I was sitting there chatting with Ponderosa and Matt, as well as JH7 here before the stream. Also, shout out goes to Ponderosa for supporting and spreading the channel. I appreciate it. Let's see who we also got here today. We have Karen, we have Kaylee, we have Carissa, we have Brian, we have Railfan, we have Cheryl, and of course everybody else who is here but just not chatting. That's okay. It's good to have you guys here. So starting off here, we're gonna take a peek at what's going on here. Ignore the day one outlook. It says slight risk up there. I designed this program and it's being a little weird, I ain't gonna lie. So I need to fix that. But we are still in the enhanced risk out there, I believe, here for today. So hopping over to the risk out, we actually had a pretty nasty threat here down in the southeast here for today. Level 3 enhanced risk still in effect up there for the northeastern, kind of east-central side of Georgia, as well as a little bit of central South Carolina here. We do have a pretty big slight risk extending down into Alabama here, as well as a little bit of the panhandle of Florida, and of course our level 1 marginal risk. They did discontinue that threat for the main peninsula of Florida, which we have had earlier today. There's been a little bit of nasty weather going on and stuff like that. Anyways, tornado threat for today. Not really a threat for the south. Kinematics, not really supportive of anything tornadic in the southeast here for today, which is pretty good. We still do have a little bit of a threat. We've had a couple of confirmed tornadoes today up here in southeastern Minnesota, I believe it was. We have a little bit of a threat for a couple more tornadic events here across portions of like the southern side of Wisconsin, a little bit of like northeastern Iowa. 5% chance maximum here across the brown, that 5% risk here, 2% chance here across the green, includes areas like Madison, Wisconsin. So just a little bit of a heads up for there. Can't really rule out another tornado or two. So then we have a really weird wind threat here across the plains, cutting through the Midwest here. Look at that. It looks like a big boomerang or something. 5% risk for damaging winds across the brown, indicating a 15% chance here across the yellow. Now, deep in the south, with that enhanced risk that we still have in effect, like we mentioned for portions of Georgia and South Carolina, we still do have that threat here. And actually, we do have A 30% risk out there for damaging winds across the red. That's a pretty big risk out there for damaging winds here. Possibility there of winds between 60, maybe upwards of 70 miles an hour in a worst case scenario within the storms. Now remember, this is not outside of the storms. This is within the storms. There is going to be potential of strong gusts that the storms produce, which could get that's a new word, between 60 and 70 miles an hour. So 30% chance once again across the red, 15% chance here across the yellow, and a 5% chance here across the brown. So that is kind of what we're looking out there for. What's up, Connor? Saying it's hot in Myrtle Beach. I bet it's really hot out there. It's actually been hot across a lot of the country here. You know, a lot of the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, the Northeast. You know, something that's crazy, something that I saw earlier today, is that Key West was actually colder today than New York City by like 10 degrees. It was kind of crazy. So the north has actually been really, really hot. Hotter than Key West today, which is just a little wild. So we do have that big ridge of high pressure across the eastern country, which is kind of leading to this nastiness of just tons and tons of heat. We'll get more into that here in a few moments here overall. But yeah, it's been pretty bad. Let's see here. What's up? Oh, my mom's here. What's up, Ma? Hope you're doing good. Let's see here. Atlanta has a severe thunderstorm watch here. Let's take a peek at that real quickly. I believe we do. Yeah, we have a. Let's go ahead and disable the Outlook here real quickly. So yeah, this is where our watches are at here. The kind of pink-ish color here. This is severe thunderstorm watches, which extend all the way from southeastern Alabama, cutting through a really big chunk of Georgia here, cutting up into the Carolinas here for north and south, and even a little bit of like eastern. Let's see here. Yeah, a little bit there. Is it? Hold on. Oh, no, it's so hard to find the state lines here. I think this is just like the western side here of North Carolina. Yeah, it's a little bit hard. I don't think that goes into the eastern side of Tennessee. I think that's right on the line there. Anyways, regardless, we have ourselves a lot of watches in the south here. Also, we do have a couple up north, too, or to the northwest here in the plains in the upper Midwest here. So, once again, the pink one is a severe thunderstorm watch, means keep an eye out there for the possibility of severe weather. One thing I like to tell people, which is pretty true, is that it's obviously hard forecasting individual storms, right? So, being able to say, hey, there's going to be a storm here at this time, it could happen, but it could not. You know, it's a little hard to tell for sure. What I like to tell you guys is that we can forecast the conditions in which these storms occur, not necessarily exactly where every single one's going to be. It's a little hard to do that. Yes, some models like the HRRR can be accurate sometimes determining that, but when it comes to it, though, you know, this is really telling us that these conditions is where the storm activity could occur. So across the pink here, this is our severe thunderstorm watch. This is where we could see maybe a little bit of strong storm activity, maybe a little bit of hail, a little bit of winds. Can't rule out an isolated tornado or two. However, the area up here in the yellow, this is actually our tornado watch area. This is actually, we do have a tornado watch in effect for about another hour or so up here across the southeastern side of Minnesota, northeastern Iowa, and a little bit of southwestern, kind of west central Wisconsin here in that risk for now. So this is a tornado watch that is in effect. So then, of course, you may have noticed all of these yellow little polygons. These are active severe thunderstorm warnings here. The blue ones are special weather statements, which is under warning threshold, which to be classified as a severe storm, it must have damaging winds of 58 miles an hour or greater, hail 1 inch in diameter or larger, and of course, if there's a tornado, then yes, that does also classify as a severe storm. But remember, southeastern United States tonight, we are not expecting any tornadic activity. Once again, kinematics just don't really support it. The lower level wind shear really isn't there to support that, so just kind of normal storms with a little bit of a gusty wind and a little bit of a hail concern is kind of what we're looking out there for. So anyways, the ones that really matter here are the ones in the yellow. These are the severe thunderstorm warnings. These are active warnings going on as of right now. We have a whole bunch of them up here in South Carolina here, as you guys can see, out there south of Columbia. Got a couple of them popping off as of right now. This one out there by Walterboro, South Carolina, is actually warned for 70 mile an hour potential, possibility for 70 mile per hour wind gusts here overall. So, you know, look out there for that overall. So, anyways, enough of that. So hopping back over here to the outlook here. So we did mention wind. We did not mention hail. Hail threat's pretty low as of right now. It's just two big 5% regions here. The first one up across the kind of like western central plains here overall, working its way into the Midwest with that 5% brown area here regarding the hail threat. Potential for some hail between 1 and 2 inches in diameter is possible. And working our way down here into the deep south here as well, we do have that 5% chance once again as well. So it is a relatively low-end threat for hail today, but we can't rule out possibility of a little bit of hail once again between 1 to 2 inches in diameter for the most part. Nothing significant as of right now. So let me go ahead and get into some of these comments here. I need to get better at that. Let's see here. JH7 says, can I do a forecast for Huntsville? Well, Huntsville's not really expected much, I can tell you, for tonight. I mean, we do have that general thunderstorm risk here, potential for, a little bit of storm activity. But, yeah, nothing really severe going on here. This actually leads us into tomorrow's concern. So tomorrow we do have a marginal risk here, across Huntsville. But speaking of, look at this weird-shaped marginal risk that we have tomorrow. So what we're looking at here, guys, is the severe weather risk level. So if you guys are new to this whole system here, it's been around for a long time, but it's basically a scale from 1 to 5. 5 being the worst potential for severe weather, the greatest probability of severe storms, and more potent these storms could potentially be. And of course, the scale goes from 1 to 5. The dark green is the beginning of that scale at a level 1. You guys might be wondering what the light green is. That's just a potential for thunderstorms. We call that the general thunderstorm risk, which is where we could see a couple of normal storms pop off, but nothing really severe in the light green areas. But that does change a little bit here in the dark green, is that's where we have our marginal or our level 1 severe weather risk. Now, while it is on the lower side of the risk level, it is it is essentially not as potent as, say, like a level 5, of course. We're not talking anything like that here overall. So, anyway, so tomorrow we do have ourselves not really much of a tornado threat, which is good. You can see a lot of the country here. We are looking pretty clear overall here. Hold on a minute. We just got a donation from Ashley. Thank you so much, Ashley, for the $5. I appreciate it. Saying, haven't caught you live in a while, Andrew. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for being on. Of course, Ashley. Thank you. Thank you so much for the 5. I appreciate it. You guys in chat, please give Ashley a big thank you for the support. It's really nice of you, my friend. Thank you. It's good to have you here. But yeah, so no tornado threat tomorrow, which is certainly a good thing. We do not have that threat here for tomorrow. Now, we do have the risk for damaging winds, a 5% risk here across the brown. Actually, even a little bit of a damaging wind threat here up across the areas of Montana here for tomorrow. So a little bit of gusty winds cannot be ruled out. But yeah, we have this really weird hook of a risk here. You guys can see, just kind of works its way across a lot of the southeast, works its way through the mid-Atlantic, through the northern Ohio Valley, and then down through the Midwest into plains. It's like there's this big gap here across much of the Midwest, which is kind of a really weird outlook here overall. But yeah, so tomorrow wind threat's pretty low. The hail threat's actually pretty low as well, and kind of just isolated more to the southeastern United States and the mid-Atlantic here. So we could see once again kind of a similar threat for hail today as we did here for tomorrow, expecting with mostly hail ranging between maybe 1 to 2 inches in diameter here overall. So, but yeah, so tomorrow's threat is nothing major as of right now. Just a little bit of a severe weather threat. It's nothing to completely worry about or anything like that. No, but it is something just to keep an eye out there for, as we could see a couple isolated strong to potentially severe storms out there. Anyways, but let's see. Yeah, it does look like a pirate hook, doesn't it? For sure. Or crab claw. Yeah, looks like something. It's kind of a weird looking shaped marginal risk. I ain't gonna lie with you. Let's see here. Oso says, can you tell me if there is any storms in my zip code, kind sir? Yeah, of course, I got you. Obviously glad to help you guys out. So let's see here. You are in... Okay, so you're up here in Georgia. Hop into radar scan here. Doesn't look like there's much going on out there by you. We do have a storm out by Carrollton, as well as Whitesburg. This is a non-severe storm, by the way. This is a storm that we are looking at that is a special weather statement. Potential for some pretty strong winds, though, upwards of 50 miles an hour. It's just shy of a it is just shy of a severe storm, but not quite there. But that's out there by Carrollton overall. So, but other than that, really not a whole lot going on here. We got a lot of our activity here towards southern Alabama, a little bit of southwestern Georgia, and a lot of activity across southern South Carolina here popping off right now, with some pretty strong wind gusts. Like I mentioned, the one out by Walterboro has a 70-mile-an-hour potential on it, which is Pretty high, pretty high. Let's see here. Jason, Category 1 club for 5 months, my friend. Thank you so much, Jason, saying anything crazy going on in Lincoln, Nebraska area this week. Well, first of all, thank you, Jason, for the support. I really appreciate that. So Lincoln, Nebraska. So we do have, let's see here. So for today, not really a whole lot going on. We do have that severe thunderstorm watch, which is north of you. Taking a quick peek at the radar, you can see there's really not a lot of anything towards Lincoln, maybe a couple showers here and there to the north. But we do have a little bit of storm activity here, well to the northwest here of the region here towards Lincoln. But yeah, this is not really anything severe. Tomorrow, we do have a level 2 threat for severe weather with that really weird risk that we have overall. Cannot rule out an isolated severe storm or two. Good news, no tornado risk here, just a little bit of a gusty wind concern and not even hail, just maybe a little bit of gusty winds could be possible, but it is a relatively low-end risk out there overall, so that's certainly pretty good. But anyways, so then that leads us into day 3, guys. We have not talked about day 3. So since today is Wednesday, this is going to be for Friday because it's day 3. So you got to think day 1, today's Wednesday, which is day 1. Then Thursday would be day 2. And then, of course, day 3 would be here for Friday. So let's hop over to Friday's risk here. Take a look at day 3's outlook. So got a bit of a northern plain activity here for Friday. We'll get into that here in a minute. But we also do have another set of marginal risks here for severe weather here up across the southeastern United States, working its way up here towards portions of the Tennessee Valley here, also out there by the mid-Atlantic once again. So for Friday, we have a little bit of a severe weather threat here once again in the southeast, so we'll have to keep an eye out there for that. But it does look like we could have some decent organized severe weather here for Friday up across both North and South Dakota. It seems like the hot spot with a level 2 severe weather threat. So we are working our way up the ladder here with a level 2 threat here for Friday. So we'll have to look out for that. So the thing about day 3, 3 days out, we cannot look at the exact probabilities for tornadoes, large hail, and damaging winds because it is a little bit far out, relatively speaking, for at least probabilities, because, anything at that range would change pretty quickly. But for days 1 and day 2, like for example, today and tomorrow, we can forecast probabilities for those hazards, but for day 3 for Friday in this case we cannot. But we can tell you that there is a decent risk for severe weather coming up out there for the north. So just a bit of an extra heads up to my folks up there in North and South Dakota here. A little bit of even northwestern Minnesota is in that level 2 threat. So a bit of a heads up there for you. And once again, the light green guys, this just represents a possibility for a couple of strong, non-severe storms, which could indicate a strong storm or two within the whole region here. But nothing really severe is expected across the light green area. So now we work our way into the extended range here. Day 4, this would be for Saturday. As of right now, nothing for Saturday, nothing for Sunday, nothing for Monday, nothing for Tuesday, nothing for Wednesday. So it's just the next 3 days that we have a little bit of severe weather with tonight being kind of the worst with that level 3 threat that we still do have an effect here across the deep south. So that is that. And then tomorrow, like I mentioned, is a relatively big marginal risk here, but it is a relatively low-end risk here overall. So that is that. Let's see here. Alex says, hi, Andrew. Hope you're doing well. You as well, my friend. Had some crazy shelf cloud storm last Thursday here with extensive damage. Oh, sorry to hear that, dude. Hopefully everything's okay. Tell me how New Jersey is shaping up for thunderstorms over the next couple of days. Yeah, of course, I got you. So for today, tonight, not really much going on here. We still do have that generalized thunderstorm risk here, but yeah, nothing big. Tomorrow, pretty much clear for the most part for New Jersey. We do have a little bit of that marginal working its way into the southern side of the state here from SPC, but yeah, relatively speaking, New Jersey should be relatively clear from severe weather tomorrow as well. And yeah, even for Friday, just kind of back-to-back generalized thunderstorm risks here. So as of right now, you're looking pretty good. Still we could get some storm activity, but yeah, as of right now, it does not appear to be anything significant or severe. So you should be pretty good, my friend. Let's see here. August says, here in Milton, Florida, a bunch of thunder and lightning went by along with some rain. Has calmed down for the moment. Well, I'm glad to see that. Yeah, it's actually been pretty active, especially up by Tampa earlier today. I had my radio on, and it was kind of going off for some special marine warnings and a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings out here. Seems like Tampa's actually been pretty active today with a little bit of storm activity overall. You can see right now, looking at Florida, a lot of this is becoming coastal, as you can kind of see. But yeah, once again, Florida, just a heads up to my folks out here, with us, we do have another risk for severe weather, kind of similar to today's risk here for Friday. So we do need to look out for for the threat here for Friday, because we have a lot of mid-level cooling that's going on here, which is creating more steeper lapse rates, more instability, which is allowing for us to have a bit more of aggressive storms than our typical normal Florida storms that we'd see. So Friday does appear to be kind of more of one of those days where we do have the potential for severe weather. I do want to hop you guys over here, or take a moment to show you guys something here on the satellite that I found really interesting today, really cool. It looks like, so meanwhile, we do have a relatively relatively high pressure dome over the southeast right now, which is, allowing for a lot of those, those hot conditions and whatnot. But let's take a moment to take a peek at Florida real quickly. I want to go ahead and show you guys something that's actually pretty cool. If you guys look here in the atmosphere, I don't know if you guys can see from earlier, you see these really tall top thunderstorms, those bubbles. I think it was lower level, or what was it that I was looking at? I think maybe water vapor. You can kind of see that there's some counterclockwise rotation going on up there. It looks like we do have some type of mid-level low or something that's kind of going on. While the pressure at the surface is still high, higher than usual, we are still technically in high pressure, of course. But you can kind of see a little bit of, cyclonic rotation going on out there. You can kind of see the pivot point just north of, Fort Lauderdale. Which I thought was pretty cool, and you can see some of those storms actually firing off over that. You can see that some of the air is actually going to the west, up towards the central northern side of Florida, and then down on the south side, you can see how that's kind of going more to the east here, which I believe is some type of upper level low with a relatively area of high pressure across the south still. I just thought that was pretty cool. And this is our water vapor scan, so you can see those darker areas representing more drier conditions. The bluish kind of representing some more moisture, and same thing for the green. But I just thought I'd share that with you guys, because I did think it was actually pretty cool to see that earlier when I was doing some observations and everything. Let's see here. What's up, Sonia? Hope you're doing good. Good to have you here, my friend. But anyway, so that's what we got going on here for now. Let's take a minute to talk about the tropics. So first of all, we missed it. We weren't here to really do any coverage. There's really no need to. But we did have our first storm, Andrea, in the Atlantic. Our first tropical storm here was out there kind of towards the central Atlantic. Didn't do anything, really. There was not much convection on it either. It was a pretty dry storm for the most part, but it was classified as our first tropical storm that we did have a couple days ago. That is gone. That's no longer a thing. We were moving into our next name of storm here whenever the next one decides it wants to pop off. We'll look at the models too. I'll give you guys a little bit of an insight of what we can expect here soon in the Atlantic. But right now, all of our eyes in the tropics anyways is actually here in the EPAC, or the Eastern Pacific. You can see south of Mexico, we do have ourselves a tropical disturbance here that we're watching. So throughout the next 7 days, throughout the next week, we have an 80% chance probability here for overall tropical activity here. So there's an 80% chance that this storm right here, right in here, could develop into a tropical cyclone, whether that being a depression, a tropical storm, or whatnot. We'll get more into that here in a minute. But this does have a overall 80% chance of formation throughout the next 7 days. And, of course, across the next 48 hours, the next 2 days, we do have ourselves a 40% chance, which is a medium risk overall for development here. So just a bit of a heads up there for that. It does have a decent risk overall of developing. So with that being said, we're going to hop into models now. We're going to take a peek at the models, starting off with the GFS, the one we know and love, of course. So you can see that system, that very broad low out there just south of Central America here. So we work our way down in time. By the way, the time's in the top left there if you guys want to follow along. GFS has actually gotten a little bit more aggressive since we last talked about this system here. You can kind of see once we approach our way right around the late 29th, going into the early 30th, it looks like that's when this thing could pick up a little bit of strength here overall. GFS, of course, while it is one model run, this model run and this model does suggest that this thing could become a relatively compact storm system here. And so whenever it comes to it, this does have potential of possibly becoming either a tropical storm or maybe even a hurricane, according to the latest GFS run, which is the 18 Zulu here. So taking a look here at the amount of moisture in the atmosphere, you can kind of see here. So the bluish green color you see here, this is indicating a lot of moisture throughout the atmosphere, while the brown is indicating more of a drier type of atmosphere throughout, relatively lower to mid levels to upper level atmosphere here is relatively dry across the brown, while the bluish green color is more moisture filled. So where that low is, you can see right here, there is a pretty good amount of moisture around it, as you guys can actually see. The ultimate death of this storm could be because of the lack of moisture here overall. But yeah, you can see that the GFS does suggest this thing potentially coming pretty close to southern Mexico. Now, there's no warning yet. We'll keep an eye out there for it. But whenever it comes to it overall, though, we'll have to definitely watch it, and keep it out there for the storm system. It does appear that there is a pretty good amount of moisture available here, at least according to the GFS model here overall. So we'll look out there for that. Another thing I want to take a look at here is the wind shear as well, as you can kind of see. Honestly, at least for its beginning development, there could be a little bit of wind shear being a little bit of an issue here. But we'll just have to see how the system kind of plays out here. So that's the GFS. I just want to kind of mention that real quickly. Obviously, it's good to compare. It's obviously good to look at different models. It's never good to just look at one because, you can't really be biased in weather. You can't, support one model more than another. As accurate as some of them, more accurate as some of them seem to be than others, it's obviously still good to keep an eye on all of them. Just kind of learn what their differences are and their similarities. And that's what you got to kind of do. You got to kind of sort the similarities and differences between a lot of the main models, which will help you kind of knock off a lot of the error margin and all that stuff. But anyways, so Euro is actually really not that much different than the GFS here. Maybe a little bit later to development here. It does look like this system just still kind of remains a relatively broad low. A lot of precipitation and whatnot, but this storm actually has it, or this system, or this model has the system actually maybe strengthening a little bit here once we approach right around the 1st of July, which is obviously still a little bit of ways out there. Still could be some changes by then, but that's kind of what the Euro suggests, that low possibly getting down into depression, maybe even tropical storm status here. It also does get a little close to the southern coast of Mexico, kind of like the GFS suggested. Regardless, this could be a bit of a concern maybe for some flooding for some of those regions out there. We could get a pretty good amount of precipitation as, we look. There's a pretty good amount of moisture over the area here. A lot of condensing going on. So it could be a little bit of a concern for that, which we'll have to look into, down in the line. But anyways, yeah, a little bit of differences with Euro, but really not too much. Just the main difference being a later development here than what the GFS suggested. So now hopping over to CMC. Now CMC model actually kind of agrees as well, kind of with what the GFS had to kind of say. This model actually kind of agrees as well that the system could start to really strengthen maybe right around the 29th or so. So, to be honest with you, yeah, this model kind of agrees with the GFS. So, from what we've learned so far from all three of these models that we just looked at is that, yes, it does look like we could see a tropical depression or even a tropical storm here within the next week or so. It could get a little close to the southern coast of Mexico, which, could drive maybe a little bit of rip current concern, maybe a little bit of flooding. We'll have to look more into that here whenever it gets a little closer, but it could be a concern, so keep an eye out there for that. But yeah, I mean, it definitely does look to be a good possibility. So we'll just keep an eye on it. The good news, though, as of right now, is that models are pretty tame. Don't really show anything significant, no like major hurricane or anything like that expected, which is certainly good news. Here's the icon. Speaking of, the icon's obviously a lot more aggressive, but considering we looked at 3 other models and none of them suggested this is kind of an outcast run, essentially, because this one shows it becoming maybe a little bit stronger than what the CMC, the Euro, or the GFS did suggest. So it is a little bit different here. But, with that being said, though, I mean, it does look like, Icon does have a similar track, at least with what the other models kind of suggested, getting relatively close to the southern coast of Mexico. So, we'll have to look out there for that, and we'll keep you guys posted. So, alrighty, so now let's hop to the Atlantic. We're going to take a peek at what's going on out here in the North Atlantic. So as of right now, there's no disturbances or anything like that. I mean, yeah, really not much going on here in the Atlantic as of right now. We can't go too far into models because, the further you go out, the more inaccurate things do get. I know there's a lot of people who like to go really far just for some views and stuff, which is kind of stupid. But being realistic, we cannot look too far out. But regardless, there's really nothing going on in the Atlantic or the Gulf or the Caribbean. This side of or this body of water, is pretty good. So the East Coast really has no threat of anything going on right now. Just right now, tropical activity seems to be pretty much primary towards the Eastern Pacific right now with that one disturbance that we're watching. But other than that, yeah, really not much going on here. Here's Euro in comparison, hopping back to the 12 Zulu run from earlier this morning. You can kind of see here, really, once again, can't go too far, but not really much developing here. It's pretty quiet. We obviously did just have the first tropical storm in the Atlantic here not too long ago, but it was very low on convection. It was in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. It was not even a problem for anybody, which is good. Obviously, I'm very thankful for that. But, other than that, it's been pretty quiet in the Atlantic here, and it probably will be that way for at least another week or so. So that's certainly good. But, yeah, a lot of the activity right now, though, tropical-wise, is in the Eastern Pacific here. Of course, since I looked at it for the Eastern Pacific, we'll take a look at the CMC here. But yeah, once again, really not much going on here with the CMC model or really any other model as of right now. So I have good news, and that is that the Atlantic is pretty clear. There's really not much going on out there. Things are looking pretty good overall. So, but we'll keep you guys posted. Obviously, if anything changes along with that, then we'll keep you guys up to date with everything. But once again, as of right now, the main thing is just watching this guy up here in the Eastern Pacific. It could be a little bit of a concern with time, but we'll certainly keep an eye out there for that. So, moving on now, hopping back to actually, what we need to look at here real quickly, since we're on the models, and I'll hop back here in a second. Let's talk about this heat wave, man. Dude, I'm sure a lot of y'all have been feeling it. I'm sure of it. So hopping over to GFS here, or sorry, CMC, which we'll hop to GFS here. This was from earlier today. You can kind of see that, yeah, temps have been unbearable. Super, super hot. You can see across a lot of the mid-Atlantic here, the southeast, temperatures have been very, very hot lately. We've been in the upper 90s and the hundreds in some spots here. I mean, a lot of the south mid-Atlantic region here, you can see is just really, really hot overall. Let's see here. What's up, Roadster Jim? Good to have you here, my friend. It's good to see you as well. But yeah, I mean, it's just unbearable. There's a lot of heat here across the plains, the Midwest, Ohio Valley, Southeast, Mid-Atlantic, so on. Look at this. We hop over to those temperature anomalies here. You can see in the previous couple of days or so, there's a lot of red, indicating that we are well within above average standards. So the blue means it's cooler than normal in this region for this given time. The red means it's hotter than normal. And you can see a lot of the heat has been really targeting the east overall. The west is actually cooler than usual overall. But yeah, the east is certainly pretty warm. Now, you guys might be wondering, well, how much longer do we have to deal with this here? Well, looking at the GFS here, it does look like that heat does persist for at least another couple of days or so. It does look like we could have some relief maybe once we get into like the early part of July. Yeah, still probably going to be quite hot for the next several days, unfortunately. The rest of this week, I'd say, is still going to be pretty warm. Maybe a little bit of a break in that heat that you can see with those coming down here. Kind of for the early portion of July here, according to what the GFS suggests here. But, yeah, lately it's just been super, super unbearable, super, super hot. So just make sure you guys are staying safe out there, staying hydrated, getting in the shade if you can. Don't overwork yourself outside. Seriously, it's not worth risking your life or overworking yourself because it's dangerous. It is. You need to take frequent breaks. Make sure you have your AC cranked up. I'm sure a lot of you probably already do, which is good. But, yeah, just seriously, it's not worth risking your life, overworking yourself. So please don't do that because, this heat's very dangerous. Not only is it miserable, it doesn't suck, it's also very dangerous. Heat exhaustion, heat stroke is a big problem. And so I want you guys to avoid that at all measures. And just, once again, stay hydrated, take frequent breaks if you have to. Unfortunately, like I mentioned, it's probably going to last for, a little bit longer, a couple more days, of course, throughout a lot of the week this week. Maybe some relief from what it looks like here for early July, of course, which we'll look into. But yeah, man, it's been crazy. Let's look at the euro here. You can kind of see here the comparison as well. A lot of the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic and whatnot, we do have a lot of really warm temperatures. Those anomalies are still very red here. You can see indicating some very warm conditions. But, yeah, I mean, it really doesn't look like this ends anytime soon. Once again, maybe until like early next month, which we'll look out for. No way, dude! Roadster Jim coming in with a $20 super chat, my friend. Holy cow. Roadster, thank you so much for the goal breaker, dude. That is awesome. Y'all in chat, please give Roadster Jim a big thank you. Roadster, thank you for the 20, my friend. That's really nice of you. That is really, really sweet. Roadster absolutely crushing that goal today. I really appreciate it, dude. That means a lot. Helps me out a ton. Helps keep us on our feet, everything like that. So I really appreciate it. Roadster, thank you, dude, for the 20. That's really nice of you, dude. Very, very grateful, very thankful for that. So thank you. Big shout out goes to you, my friend. Thank you, thank you. And of course, if there's anything I can do for you to help, please let me know. That goes for really all of you guys. I'm here to help you guys. I want to make sure you guys are remaining safe and weather aware. We're here for you. But seriously, hats off to Roadster, dude. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for your support. Greatly, greatly appreciated. So, but yeah, Euro not really showing much of a difference here. Still showing, we work way towards the later portion of this month. A lot of heat still. This is in Celsius, by the way. This is not Fahrenheit. So Celsius is a little bit more severe. It's more in Fahrenheit, per se. But, so yeah, we'll keep an eye out there for that. I'll keep you guys updated. I'll let y'all know whenever we have some more breaks and stuff. I really need to start making more videos. I ain't gonna lie with y'all. I've been a little slacking on the videos. I need to kick up on them a little bit, but I really just, even if it's a 2-minute video or a 2-minute update or something, I just want to kind of get something out for y'all every morning, or at least during some point in the afternoon or whatnot, just to help you guys out and just kind of keep everybody up to date. But yeah, we'll keep you guys updated on this situation here. Just once again, please don't overwork yourself, y'all. Take frequent breaks if you have to, of course. Stay hydrated, very, very important. And just like I said, go inside, cool off for a bit. If you have to go back out and work, go ahead, but just don't push it too much, okay? Anyways, so that's that. Now, really quickly, let's hop back over here to the models. Actually, we're going to take a look at a different page here, but I do want to do a little bit of an analysis or a little bit of a forecast for Friday. Once again, we were just looking a minute ago, which I'll go ahead and show you all again for the people just joining. Friday, we actually have ourselves a bit of a risk for severe weather, a decent organized risk for severe weather here for Friday, up here across portions of North and South Dakota overall, as well as you guys can see extending a little bit down towards like the Central Plains and whatnot. But yeah, main concerns, the Dakotas, a little bit of northwestern Minnesota here for Friday as of now. So let's take a peek at that. Let's go ahead and take a look at that here. So let's hop up here to the north. Let's see here. Ponderosa says, thanks for keeping us updated. Yeah, of course. Very welcome. Do I have to work outside in the heat at all? I had to do some work on my weather station. I've been doing some updates on it, and yeah, I was in the Florida sun. It was, typical. It kind of sucked, but yeah, a little bit. But I'm at least being safe with everything, and I make sure to take breaks too, which you all should as well. Anyways, so let's take a peek here at the models. We're going to hop on back over here. We're going to talk about the risk here for Friday. Let's see what we got in store for us. So we're taking a look at the NAM model, the latest Zero Zulu run, which is actually just finishing up rendering now. So this is fresh off the press here, y'all. So looking at the models here for kind of late Friday, you can see that we do have a pretty good amount of instability. This is the fuel throughout the atmosphere for severe weather potential. We have a really good amount of instability, upwards of 2,000 to 4,000 joules per kilogram of instability. That's a pretty good amount of fuel. So check that off the box. There's really 3 to 4 main things that you need for severe weather and organized storm activity to occur. First one being lift, second one being instability, third one being kinematic or wind shear, fourth one being the moisture, and whatnot. But yeah, first of all, looking at the instability of the fuel, it's there. We have a lot of it. There's plenty of fuel out there for late Friday. So that's that. The next thing I want to take a look at here is our dew points. Dew points are good, indicating really good surface moisture. Got to get that moisture from the lower parts of the country, or lower parts of the atmosphere to the upper parts. So obviously at the surface it's warmer than it is as you go up. If there's a lot of moisture in the lower atmosphere, as that air rises, it condenses, in which, this moisture is very crucial for storm development. But yeah, dew points in 60 and 70 degree range, perfect. That is good. We have a lot of moisture available here as well. So check that one off as well. We have a lot of moisture. We have a lot of moisture, a lot of instability here. So the next thing, let's take a look at that, at the wind shear here. Now, one thing I am noticing here, as you guys can kind of see here for late Friday, we do actually have a little bit of a lower level jet. While it is nothing really, nothing super significant per se, there is a little bit of dynamics here. You can see we do have some winds from the south going to the north here in this case, which is important for tornadic activity. So you can see some of those winds going to the north that we do have here, about 20, maybe 25 knots or so, which, with other conditions, a lower level jet of this strength could supply a possibility for maybe a couple tornadic scenarios. We'll do a little bit more of an analysis here. We'll grab some soundings here in a moment. But, given this lower level jet, it could support some tornadoes. Maybe nothing violent per se, nothing significant really, but maybe some lower end tornadic activity couldn't be ruled out. So we have the moisture, we have the instability, we have even a lower level jet here. Not super strong, but enough for maybe some tornadic activity. Looking at our mid-level flow, you can actually see that it's pretty perpendicular, to the lower levels here. So with our lower level wind shear, once again going from the south to the north, our mid-level winds, you can see, are going from the west to the east. So that sudden change in that wind direction can create that spin that's needed for tornadic cells. They're supercells, we call them. So with that being said, I really wouldn't rule out the possibility for maybe some brief, maybe some relatively weak tornadic activity here for Friday. Obviously, this is, there's too far out of range for the exact probability. But, it does look quite possible to where we could see maybe a couple of tornadoes. So everything does appear to be in line. Let's go ahead and grab a sounding here. We're going to grab one. Let's just call one right here for central North Dakota. Let's just take a peek at a sounding here. We're going to see kind of what the atmosphere looks like. So first things first, one thing I do notice, photograph, you can see there's a little bit of an arch here. Not really anything big. Looking at our helicity, it's relatively low. You can see we do have a little bit of that veering wind shear. Lower levels going to the north, go up a little bit. Winds do aggressively change directions to the east here. So there's a little bit of spin. There's a little bit of helicity. You can see the curvature on the photograph, so that does indicate maybe some tornadic activity. If we can break through this little layer here, which appears to be a little bit capped, but if we can break through it, then, it shouldn't be an issue. Really not that strong of a cap either, to be honest, which, diurnal heating and everything like that should probably break through that. Good news, though, is our lower level winds are actually fairly weak. You can see that most of these are ranging in a lower atmosphere, at least between 0 to 5 kilometers or so, is between mostly maybe 15 to 30 knots, which isn't super strong, 30 knots at most. Most of it's between like 20 knots to maybe 25 or so. Pretty low and pretty weak wind shear, at least in the lower atmosphere. Mid-level flow, though, if we look at our mid-level atmosphere, the wind barbs obviously show stronger winds, indicating that there could be some good mid-level organization going on, which could increase storm longevity, potential severity as well, keeping those updrafts well separated from your storm's downdraft and everything like that could be in place. But yeah, what you really see is a lot of cape, a lot of that instability here from your parcel path, between your parcel path that we have here and your temperature line. You can see that there's a pretty fat amount of cape here, all in this area here. There's a lot of fuel, a lot of instability available. So that certainly is going to be playing for, storm strength, due to the amount of instability, could allow for stronger vertical velocities, which could lead to strengthened updrafts, which could even lead to more of a hail concern too, which is a bit of a concern here as well. We do have a little bit of a drying, or I wouldn't say, we'll say this, it's relatively lower in moisture levels as you go up between 1 to 3 kilometers. Surface levels, we do have ourselves, a bit more saturation. There's a little bit more of, cloud cover, more higher humidity and whatnot. But as you go up in altitude, there's a little bit of drying that occurs, which could, enhance some hail development, which we'll have to look out there for. But regardless, bottom line, D-Cape even. I haven't even looked at this yet. 1,400. You guys can't see it, but that's pretty high. Could signify some damaging winds, some large hail, maybe a weak tornado or two. Seems to be possible in a sounding like this. Once again, this is up in central North Dakota here for kind of later Friday. So let's grab another one here real quickly. We're going to take a peek at central South Dakota. This will be the last one we take a look at here. So let's see what this one shows. Holy cow. Okay, let's get rid of that. Here, let me go back a little bit. I think I grabbed the sounding in a storm on the model here, apparently, so that's why it was so contaminated. Okay, anyways. Yeah, not much difference, really. Actually, there's a little bit of a difference here. Our dew point depression's greater in our lower atmosphere, and what I mean by that is the spread of our temperature and our dew point is much greater at our lower levels, at our surface level, indicating lower humidity at the surface. At least in the sounding here. But it does become a little bit more saturated between that 1 to 5 kilometer mark here, as you can see. Still a lot of instability. We do have that veering wind shear column we were talking about here. A little bit of arcing hodographs here. Once again, though, our wind shear is not really strong. Our lower, mid-level, upper level even winds are not that strong. Our wind shear is pretty weak. Yes, it could support some strong, even severe storm activity, and even maybe a couple tornadoes, but it's nothing significant from what it looks like as of now. With that being said, though, there's a lot of instability. There's a pretty good amount of moisture here. Severe weather could certainly be a concern here. D-Cape showing 1,700. Very high. Very, very high. Could be definitely a bit of a gusty wind concern as well. But anyways, So in this sounding, more of a hail and damaging wind concern overall. But whenever it comes to it, we cannot roll out maybe an isolated tornado or two, which we'll have to see what happens. But that's kind of what we're standing here. At least from the NAM here for Friday. So once again, we'll make sure to keep you guys weather aware and keep you guys up to date and everything like that. Obviously, it's a little too far to go. We're kind of getting there. You can see here for late Friday, you can actually see here the latest HRRR run that just came through on the last frame. You can see that here for kind of later Friday, we could start to see maybe some, maybe semi-discrete, possibly supercells that could develop here. This can obviously change a lot between now and Friday, but, from what the early signs of the HRRR on the extended range show is possibly some semi-discrete cells, which could be capable of all hazards. Once again, the good news is I don't think it'll be anything violent tornado-wise. Nothing significant as of now. Yes, things can change between now and then, but as of right now, doesn't seem to be. I think there could be some tornadoes relatively on the lower scale, possibly relatively brief as well. Probably a big concern for hail. We could definitely have some pretty large hail. Definitely some damaging wind concern as well. I think those are the two leading concerns as of right now, whenever it comes to it. Let's see. Roadster says, love the hodographs. Thanks for the interpretation. Yeah, no problem, dude. No problem. Yeah, I think it's pretty good that we do a little bit more of an in-depth. I know it's a lot to take in. It is. But it offers so much in-depthness, and it offers so much more of a better understanding once you kind of get a hold of hodographs, or not just hodographs, but soundings and SKU-T charts as well. It really opens a lot of doors for you to understand more of the mechanics of what's really going on up in the atmosphere. Let's see, Matt says we need more YouTube shorts. That I couldn't agree more. I really couldn't agree more. What's up, WWT? Welcome. Saying hello, Andrew. What's up? But yeah, later HRRR does show maybe some discrete, maybe semi-discrete supercells firing off here late Friday, so we'll look into that here as well. Once again, good amounts of moisture, even from the HRRR, showing 60, upper 60, maybe lower 70 degree dew points. Pretty good. Very hot still, of course. Instability here. Not a not really scarce. I mean, it's very much tons of instability available here. So yeah, we'll keep our eyes out there for Friday. I definitely do see why SPC does have that slight risk out there. So we'll be sure to keep you guys up to date with everything, and we'll let you all know what's going on there. Okay. Anyways, so let's hop on back. That's really about a lot that's going on here. We talked about the severe weather risk here. We've been talking about the tropics, the heat, the severe weather. One thing I will go over here, which we haven't done tonight, is the excessive rainfall risks here. So for today, we actually do have, or for what's left of today, we do actually have a decent risk for flooding, up here across portions of the upper Midwest here in the Central Plains. A little bit of flooding out there. Yellow is a level 2 out of 4 flooding threat, which indicates at least a 15% risk for flooding. The green indicates at least a 5% chance out there for flooding overall. So a little bit of flooding could be a concern if you're in these regions here that's highlighted. Excuse me. There could be a little bit of a flooding concern overall. So, hopping into tomorrow. Tomorrow, actually, we do have another pretty decent risk up there for flooding. Up there towards, like, the western Great Lakes, portions of the Midwest still here, once again, with that 15% risk out there here, or at least 15% risk out there is what they classify it as. You can see for yourself here. Got a slight level 2. So, yeah, a decent risk for flooding extends there. Also, that weird outlook is pretty similar to our convective outlook you can see here. That really weird shaped margin that we have tomorrow, which is kind of interesting. But, it follows a lot of that shape here, in which we do have, a low-end flooding threat here for, portions of the Deep South as well, the Mid-Atlantic, Northeast, and Great Lakes region here, which we'll certainly look out for. Let's see here. Can I look at the Ohio Valley for tornado potential around the 5th? Okay, so it is a little far out for that. I can't really look at it now because of how far it is, considering that is well over a week away. I don't like to look that far because of how quickly things do change. So if you can come back to me, I'd say maybe 3 days at most before the 5th, so the 2nd, let's say, you come back and ask me, then yeah, I could tell you a little bit more. But just since it's so far away right now, even if I could show you, it's likely to be different the next day. So, just given how far away it is. But for now, can't really do that because of the inaccuracies of it. It's just, we're good at forecasting weather, but no one's that good. Not that good because, models become heavily unreliable the more you go out. And the 5th is pretty far out there. And like I mentioned, what I like to explain to you guys is that it's hard to forecast individual storms themselves. It can be done, but we are really good at forecasting the conditions in which these storms do form in, if that makes sense. Saying that, this area has a good amount of, let's say, instability, moisture, wind shear, which is all needed for, like I said, which is all needed, absolutely, for that to occur. Let's see here. For educational purposes, can you explain the relation between convective inhibition and heat wave? So, here, let's take a peek at the models here. We're going to bring you guys over here real quickly. So we'll kind of show you all what's been kind of going on here. So we mentioned this a little bit ago. Not necessarily convective inhibition. That's more for convective inhibition is basically a temperature inversion, in which basically stops all convection, all rising air parcels. Any storm that tries to fire off. Convective inhibition is the warm layer in the atmosphere which stops that activity. Now, with the heat wave that we have going on here, that is actually heating up the surface a lot. A lot more than usual, obviously, because you can see the red here indicating our above normal temperatures and whatnot. So let me just grab a sounding here. This was from earlier today. This is no longer valid. You can see that the higher the temperature is, in this case, there's not much of a, not much of a cap going on per se. This wouldn't be really the prime thunderstorm environment here, but, you really see the strongest cap or convective inhibition in the morning hours before the sun comes out, before that diurnal heating occurs. Because typically in the morning, say this was a morning sounding, let's just edit the ground level. So our temperature would, here, let's do red for our temperature and our green for dew point. So let's modify this a bit here. So let's just say that, in the morning time, it looks something more like this. Because of, because basically before the sun comes out, it's a lot cooler on the surface, right? So there's going to be more of a cap, more of, that temperature inversion in place here. So basically, there's no big relation to it. All you really need to know is that a cap or convective inhibition is just a big temperature inversion, which is a spike in temperatures, essentially. Mostly in the lower levels. It can happen at other levels too, but it pretty much just stunts a lot of thunderstorm growth here. Doesn't have too much relation to do with, the heat that we're dealing with here, if that makes sense. But if you have any more questions about it, and if there's anything I didn't get to that you would like to hear about it, let me know. Okay. Try to best. It's kind of hard to explain everything properly and kind of make it to where it's understandable at the same time. It's a lot to take in. I know it is. I've been doing this for many years, and it was a lot to take in at first, but you eventually get it. Pretty cool. But if there's anything else I can do to help out, it'd be greatly appreciated. Or yeah. Alrighty. Let's see. We need the rain badly here in New Hampshire after 4 days, 90s. Yeah, it's been a little dry here as well lately. We've actually had some storms where I've been. We've had a couple of storms nearby, but we haven't really had a soaking rain in a while. Essentially, not really anything super crazy. Still waiting for the tropics. Hopefully. Nothing too bad happens. I mean, don't mind me. I do love a good storm, but it's the damage they can cause, especially for those coastal areas, is not good. I don't wish that upon nobody. Thank you, Roadster. Yeah. Hey, I might not be the best teacher out there, but I do try my best to explain as best as I can. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to the bottom of it, though, I mean, going back to it, convective inhibition is more of a big problem for stunting growth of thunderstorms, and typically when you have these heat waves, it's just a big what is the word for it? Pretty much just a big drop in the lapse rates, or a big increase in the lapse rates, I should say. The rate of which the temperature decreases with altitude. Been studying the weather now for 16 years. Has it really been that long? 16 years? I mean, I know it's been a long time. Sheesh. Did I hear the damage in Florida today? No, but I did hear Tampa had some hail. Let's see here. Drew loves a good storm. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Ma, don't you lie. You don't like a good storm. Whenever there was a hurricane coming, you were scared. I was enjoying it, but the aftermath sucks. I hate the cleanup. The aftermath is terrible. That and the being without power sucks. I've recently taken a keen eye to the weather, learning about CAPE, shear, convective inhibition, and lifting mechanisms, especially with the derechos and tornadoes happening. Yeah. Yeah, well, that's awesome. And if there's anything I can do to help out, I mean, if you want to know any more about them, I mean, either or, I'll be more than happy to help. Maybe someday, I've done this before a long time ago on the channel. We could do like an educational live stream series in which, I could go in depth more, considering this is just kind of a normal weather update wouldn't be the most appropriate for the stream, but I would be more than happy to do that if you guys would be interested in kind of an educational stream where I go more into the depth of, the dynamics, of wind shear, convective available potential energy or CAPE, convective inhibition, you name it, helicity, whatever. Let's see here. You like storms but not hurricanes? Yeah, that's fair. I love a good hurricane though, except when it causes damage, and I don't like that. Anyways, but if you guys have any questions, feel free to let us know. We're probably going to roll off here soon. We've been live already about an hour, which is our typical update length. But yeah, I mean, we pretty much went over everything we really needed to. I mean, like I mentioned here, we went over really about everything. We went over the next SPC or the whole SPC outlook here between the next 3 to 8 days, really. We already went over that. If you guys want to go back in the live stream, you guys can do that as well. But we've already went over that. We went over the tropics. We went over the heat wave mess that we're dealing with here. We went over the flooding outlooks. We did some analysis on Friday's threat. Once again, Friday seems to be pretty decent, which we'll look into more. Once again, tomorrow we do have a pretty big risk here, size-wise. But regardless, like I mentioned here, it's risk-wise is pretty low. Still a level 1 threat, but still need to be weather aware. Will I be live tomorrow? Yes. Think that'd be fantastic. Okay. Well, yeah, we'll have to do that. We'll have to definitely do that. I'll have to find a way to like create sketches and stuff because I'm really good at explaining things by drawing them out. You know, I'm not the best teacher verbally, but visually showing you things, it helps me a lot. Let's see here. It's very educational. We need more. Oh, I appreciate that, guys. Y'all are very awesome. Appreciate y'all. I love to watch Drew watch a good... Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you could tell my mom about what happened with... a lot of you guys were actually there. Milton, whenever it happened. I was sitting there watching that whole thing. I streamed through both of the eye walls. If you don't know, I was actually in the eye wall of Milton as it made landfall, which was pretty nice. That the western eye wall was actually worse than the right-hand eye wall, which I figured was weird because, you know, typically in tropical weather, the right-hand side's the strongest. But for some reason, that storm hit us harder on the west side, which is weird. Have I heard about the grease fires? I have not. Can I explain why the chasers are targeting the northern plains on Friday? Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple because that's where a lot of the severe weather is expected. So we do have a level 2 threat here for Friday. As we mentioned, you can see that yellow here. This is our slight risk, that level 2 threat. So I kind of already went over a lot of this, but I can summarize it for you. So basically the reason that, you know, people would probably be wanting to go up there, I haven't seen anybody talk really much about it because, you know, I mostly just forecast for myself and do my own stuff. But yeah, let's take a peek at this one more time, and then after this we're gonna roll off, guys. Okay, it's getting a little bit late here, but yeah, we'll be up here tomorrow for more updates and stuff like that with you guys. But anyway, so like I mentioned here, you know, instability-wise, once again, there's 4 main things you need for severe weather. So you need the instability, the fuel, which is what we're looking at now. You can see we're between 2,000 to 4,000 joules per kilogram, which is a pretty good amount. You know, pretty good amount of instability. So that's one of them. A lot of instability. You have moisture, which looking at our dew points here, you know, upper 60s, lower 70s. Great moisture supply at our lower levels. That will really supply those storms a lot of water vapor and a lot of moisture. So that's in place. So that's 2 now. 3. Now, this is what I believe can make there be a little bit of a tornadic concern. We actually looked at the photographs as well, which they did show a little bit of arcing. But between North and South Dakota here, you can see for late Friday, we do have ourselves a little bit of a lower level jet component, which we are talking nothing significant, but mostly between like 20 to maybe 25 knots of lower level wind shear. This is 850 millibars, which is roughly about 5,000 feet up aloft, which not super high up, but it's relatively close. You know, considering the atmosphere as a whole, it's pretty close to ground. Very important for tornadoes, though. Very important. So yeah, regardless, a little bit of a lower level jet component is in place. We'll have to look out for that. But one thing I really want you to look at here is, of course, our lower level jet here. You can see that the winds are going from the south to the north. And working our way up here to the mid-level atmosphere. Now we're at 500 millibar equivalent height, which is about 20,000 feet or so up there. So with that, you can see that our winds do actually change direction from the west to the east. So with that aggressive change, very perpendicular like we mentioned earlier, you know, with that aggressive change in wind direction and wind speed with altitude, that can create some spin, you know, and of course helicity values increased and tornadic probabilities really increased because of the aggressive change in that wind. You know, direction will do it. But like we mentioned, the strength of which the winds are at is pretty weak, but the direction of what they are is critical to the development of tornadic activity, in which we do have. Anyways, but yeah, so that's probably why that they're targeting those areas, because it does look like a little bit of a tornado potential. It doesn't appear to be anything significant or violent as of now, which is good. It just appears to be kind of a regional tornado event for now, which we'll look into. So that's 3. The last one is obviously a lifting mechanism. There's tons of different ways of lift, to get that warm air off the ground and into the cooler environment above. So I'll give you a couple examples and then we're going to roll off here. So there's one like surface wind convergence, where you have 2 areas of air come together and converge, which forces the air from the ground up. That's one. Frontal boundaries, like a cold front or something, kind of wedges the warm air up into the cooler environment above, which can start storms essentially. Simply diurnal heating, simply the natural phase of the sun heating up the surface can create areas of lower pressure, which can develop storms, which can create a source of lift. Because the high pressure void, or the low pressure void, and the high pressure is trying to fill it in, which kind of converges the wind together. But that's just a couple of ways. Also, even geography is a big role in it too. The winds flowing through the valleys, can kind of channel the air and force it upwards, which is pretty cool. That's just a number of many ways that you can have storms develop here. But all right, everybody. Well, unless you guys don't have any more questions for me tonight, we're gonna call it a stream. But yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, if you guys are just joining or whatnot, if you want to go over everything we were talking about, like I mentioned, we talked about everything you guys really need to know. We talked about the severe weather risk over the next week. We talked about the tropical weather outlook here over the next week or so in both the Pacific and the Atlantic, as well as the crazy heat wave we've been dealing with here. Like I mentioned, a little bit of a summary. It appears that we're still going to be in those hot conditions for at least another week or so. A little bit of signs for maybe a bit of a cool down early next month, which we'll look into more, of course, over the next couple of days. We talked about the flooding risks here. We have a little bit of a flooding risk up there over the next couple of days. And we did that deep analysis into Friday's risk here. But yeah, that's about really all that's really going on right now that we really need to talk about here. But all right, everybody. Well, I appreciate y'all very, very much for watching. What website do I... I can't tell you how many people ask me what programs or websites I use. I was using COD Meteorology. This one is WeatherWise. It's a new application, which I like. Pretty good. I've been kind of replacing that with Radar Omega lately. This one seems to run smoother. That's why I tend to use this one more. But once again, going once, going twice. Once again, Roadster, thank you for the support earlier, my friend. I really, really appreciate it. That was certainly really, really nice of you. Just want to say thank you for the super chat. It's greatly, greatly appreciated as well. Same thing for Ashley as well on the Venmo support. So thank you for the people who have directly supported our cause, and it really does help out. Help spread the weather awareness to you guys, and I just want to say, for the people who have directly supported us, thank you truly for the support. It's greatly appreciated, and helps keep our programs up and running, keeps us running, helps keep me alive, which is good. Kind of needed for weather reports. You kind of need me to be alive for that, which it does help. I'm just messing with y'all, but I really do appreciate it, though. Seriously, just thank you all for that. Of course, thank you to everybody who just joins. Even if it's not directly supporting, you guys are awesome still. I really appreciate all of you guys, just as equally. I really do. But all right, everybody. Well, I'm gonna roll off here for now. We'll catch you guys tomorrow, though. Yeah, I'm planning on going live tomorrow for y'all to give you guys more of an update. We'll have more updated models, more updated outlooks, stuff like that. So, all right, everybody. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your night. Y'all take care. Stream's going to head off here in approximately 1 minute. So go ahead and say goodbye to your friends, your family, anybody you're hanging out with in the chat. It'll be greatly appreciated. Once again, big shout out today goes to Roadster Jim as well as Ashley. Thank you guys so much. Of course, a big shout out goes to everybody who joined tonight. Thank you to the mods for joining. Thank you to my mom for joining. Let's see here. Thank you for everybody who's liked, who's subscribed. greatly appreciated. If you guys could share this channel, it would be much appreciated. Help spread the word. Get that word out there. It'll be greatly appreciated. And who knows, it could go a long way with helping out people sometime. So be greatly appreciated. But all right, everybody, thank you all so much for joining, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, my friends. See ya later on.